If you want to start, yeah, and there's microphones there, just make sure they're turned on.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for waiting. Yeah, just the. Yeah, it's been my day for hours, but I'm like, well, thank you for. I'm good. Oh, geez. Yay.
I would like to welcome everyone to the Neighborhood District 5 meeting. We are going to jump in to item number 1 on the agenda, which is presentation by Vern Keeslar, talking about a new flag for the 9/11 memorial.
Got that right here. I got a traffic signal now, so I gotta get back out there. What happened, I don't know, the Franklin South neighborhood. We all remember the events in 2001, and they wanted to do a memorial or tribute to those brave people that lost their lives during that time. I actually worked for the city at the time, way back then. And so they did this, I think, in 2002, and then Franklin neighborhood got funding to do something like this. So they planted trees along the boulevard, from the roundabout down the Mall Green Road, and on both sides of the street, and then they put a memorial on it. The memorial was a stone, and you can see it down there, a couple lights on each side that shine up the flag. We drove by the flag a couple of weeks ago, and it was some hammer. It was not something for us to be proud of. And so we went ahead and bought a new flag, which is the same size, and the which is like 9 by 12. So here's the new flag for the South neighborhood. It's right in here, and I wanted to let people know that I have a key and I have the crank for it. It's for public works, but I'll want it to you guys. Who's our Franklin South neighborhood chair? Do we have one?
That is Messina Ava, and she is not here.
Okay, so I'll leave this with the council office and trust that I'm going to get these 2 things back. I think these 2 things back, okay? This is making the key to be able to access and put the new flag out. And maybe the neighborhood wants to get together on the evening and just join forces and put the flag up and just talk out, whatever you guys want to do. But there's the flag, and then we're hoping that the Franklin South neighborhood remembers this, and maybe on an annual basis, if the flag's getting a little heavy, a little weather, then that might be an appropriate budget now. I think it was $300 for this flag. So just kind of give you a round budget for next month. But that was a really great job that the Franklin neighborhood did back in 2002 to put this memorial up. And we just wanted to see the flag in a little bit better shape than it was. So present it to you guys from Provo City Public Works, and we hope that the neighborhood can get together and enjoy each other's company as they raise the flag there. Thank you.
Next we'll start into the planning items. First, we will hear from Aaron Ardmore about a preliminary subdivision request. And then after Aaron, we'll invite Ken Swenson up to discuss a request for a certificate of appropriateness. Aaron.
So I think what was gonna come on this one, so I put two sites together, it's fairly simple. Just outline adjustment and by the mall, so. Here you can see the properties that are included in this application. If you go to the next slide. That's currently the recorded plot. If you go to the next slide, it doesn't look much different. If you go to the next one, it highlights the difference there. So really they're just shifting this line. So this access belongs to this lot. Now that access is going to belong to that lot. All the easements and everything is staying the same. It's just a real simple plat to change those lines. So any questions about the process or where it's at? Yeah,
Is there any word on the reason behind the request to change?
there is, no, we don't have any development plans or any users coming in there. We just receive this plat.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay, let me hold on. We're having a hard time with our sound here. People on Zoom are not able to hear. So hang on, let me switch. Okay, let's see, maybe talk and see if they can hear.
Before we move on, let me just ask if anyone in the attendance has any concerns about what is being requested. Okay, maybe they'll just know that no one expressed any concerns. Is that sound any better?
Let me see, I'm waiting for people to respond. Okay, some can hear it, but it's muffled. Other people can't hear it at all. Let's see. Try this one. Okay, testing, can you hear the sound? Oh,
Is
Okay.
this any better?
yeah, let's see if it is. Let's try again. Can you hear now? Okay, people on Zoom, okay. So they can hear me, they can't hear the people on the microphone. So you make sure that you hold it nice and, or. Let's actually go.
We'll invite
settings.
Ken
I will
Swenson
share screen.
to discuss the request for a certificate of appropriateness.
Share computer audio. There.
Interesting to bring up that. They want to go to it.
Yeah.
Just so you know, like, I used to go to the walking neighborhood meetings quite a bit. See some familiar faces, it's good to see you. Okay, I'll fly through some of this pretty quickly, and then at the end, we can ask questions, go back to me. There's an old building right on the corner of Fourth North and First East. Looks cute from the outside, it's falling apart. I've had this for a while, trying to demolish, put up a nice new place that looks nice and doesn't have homeless people in there. So we'll go through this. I'm just going to tell you who I am, give a historical, talk to you about the historical designation, where that came from. The person's condition, what it was like when I saw it. Structural engineering report, which is probably the key that I'm talking about, except for the new building. So we'll talk about new building. I'll show you what's planned there. I think you'll like that. And I'm very big proponent of keeping the character of the neighborhood. I love old buildings, so I'll show you this.
We have about 2 minutes for the item.
Okay, hang on.
Well, it's 10 minutes for that slide, so there's one.
I can't, it has a hard time when I'm doing Zoom and a presentation, so I've got people on chat.
Okay, so this is what the house looks like. It's actually inside as you get to street, it's right up. I'm representing real holdings and KPS properties. They're both in line with houses. We modeled the one next door, which is only 5 years worth of this. This one just couldn't. So we're talking about tearing this down and going on to the next, or to building something new. Divided in 2015, plan on remodeling it, 2016, retiring in 2018. We'll have a retirement. Sorry about that. The structural engineering report said, no, you cannot remodel, period. If you change the roof, the walls will fall down. That's what it said. So I had to evict this, the tenants, the empty home, just because it's a, so, I submitted for this before in the Landmarks Commission denied it. Hopefully they won't this time. Life happened. Now I'm ready to move on to it. These are all quotes. I'll paraphrase. It's a piece of junk that's going to fall down in Peterson. I don't want any of the neighbor kids or any neighbors in that house or near that house when it falls down. They cannot get insurance on it. So we need to tear it down for the safety of everybody and the beautification of everything else. It provides a good service. So there are no structural elements that are adequate in present condition. Okay. He's saying nothing is wrong. There is no redeeming quality physically about it. Okay, this shows inside since the last report in 2016, this wall has actually collapsed. So walking in this place is scary. I used to floors and things in there, but now it's scary going. And this is the one next door. Just thought I'd show you. I don't dislike old houses and I don't tear it down. I completely remodeled this interior. Completely. So I love them. That's what we're planning to do. This is what's important to you guys. Putting in something that looks nice. I haven't colorized this. It's brick and something. Is what that is. And just the different elevations going through that. It's a nice looking house, I think, and I think it is in the character of this area. Parking, lots of parking in my meetings. I know that was always a big issue. Everybody was always worried about parking. 14 spots set for 8 total people. These are all single bedroom apartments. Here's the floor plan for each one. I showed you the basement because I'm putting storage units in the basement and just a place for me to work there. There's actually 2 of these floors, but they look all the same. So it's a 1 bedroom with an office, which is what most of unmarried couples are asking for. Okay, how's that for quick? Yes.
You realize this is in an RC zone? You're going from a 4-bedroom, 4-bathroom home to that?
I'm going from a 4-plex to a 4-plex.
That kind of seems like overbuilding.
It's a 4-plex to a 4-plex.
Okay.
Yeah, it's exactly. They said don't bother trying to get any more. But the zoning says you can replace whatever it is with whatever it is. So if it's a duplex, it can replace with a duplex. 4-plex, 4-plex. That's exactly what it is.
Did I understand that you plan to, you personally use some of the basement space?
But yeah, no, when I say use, storage,
Okay.
when I have to fix something, I'll leave my tools in there. Some people would put that in the shed out back. I just put it in the basement because you gotta have a basement anyway.
So it's not like an office that you're gonna use,
No,
but
no, it's just like it shows. It's an open space. Probably have some toilets in there. Yes, sir.
So how much taller is this thing, which is 2 stories plus, or it looks like it would be considered an attic, compared to the one next door?
Actually, that's a good question. I haven't measured it, but this is going to be pretty similar to the one next door, to the property item next door.
So does that have a second story?
It does. It's a basement. The basement sits up higher than this basement. So we have living in the basement, and then we have the main floor, and then it has a second story that has 4 bedrooms in it. Okay. So it's pretty common, why condition the maintenance.
So an old style architect would be, there would be a 1.5 story home.
Say that again.
There would be a 1.5 story home because the walls.
Yeah, they have television.
Thank you.
Yes,
How high is it at the highest point? Overall, how much higher is the structure?
it's been too long since I looked at the plans, I can find that out. I've got my contact information if you want. I'll find out. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, good. I was wondering what you have besides parking that makes it a fun little full place, so to be in, like, yeah, green space and other things, is there bike parking, and not just a car place?
Not just a
Like, is
company.
there going to be a swing, because they, like, lots of married couples may have a baby, or, you know, there might be other, yeah, will there be like a gathering space in your?
Yeah, can you show where the green space on that would be?
Sorry, I had one with trees in here. Okay, so parking lot, planted green space, and then this is actually the parking lot right now. So that will be reclaimed to green space. So we're actually getting more. This, which is, I'm really looking forward to this. This is the fourplex that I showed. And behind it, there's a big area that's in pavement that don't particularly fit.
So overall, there's actually an increase in green space?
Well, no,
There
because
is, no,
we didn't have that parking before.
but it's in between.
I think that's parking. There is a lot right now. This is all pavement, this is all pavement. Through here is all pavement, and this coming over to about here is pavement. So I'm losing this piece here, the pavement, but I'm gaining this big piece and putting the house this way, so I pick up some of it.
I want to thank you for the dumpster being that.
You're welcome for the- Oh, right, those are required. Yes. This, sorry, I was looking at one. This one requires 5, grandfathered in. So, no, 5 parking spaces. This one requires a lot more than the other is. So they're all. in
You'll
there.
see.
I've been renting in Provo to students for a long
They
time.
have a yes.
But there's 16, right? You said, so there'll be
14.
or 14, okay, sorry.
Mhm.
Okay,
You could park on the lawn.
so 8 for the fourplex, and then, 6 for the other. Well, I meant.
9.
And so there'd be a gathering space for both buildings there,
In that little corner.
and will you have bike parking?
Yeah, I can put one back in, sure.
Great.
Probably right over here somewhere. Yeah. Okay.
I think it's a great design, nice job giving them storage below, 1 bedroom is exactly what the market needs. Good luck, I hope you get it passed.
I appreciate that. I've been renting long enough that I think, you know, this is what they need, just like you said.
Would you mind mowing your lawn right now? It's kind of, I walked by it today and it's not great looking, the
Well, there's
lawn.
some garbage on that north side.
Yeah,
too.
so just stop by and take care of it soon.
I was told that it was demo it and I had everything going. And the winter took out the asbestos. And pulled all that stuff and set it there, and I thought, yeah, I really was coming right there. So that's how it all happened.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
All right, I would like to hold people's opinion on this. For that, just, I'm gonna want to like share what they're thinking. On this.
I like the design. I also think there's a precedent of letting houses go to plat in our neighborhood, but I'm not thrilled with the wording, but it sounds like you bought it after it was.
On that stage.
But, and I would like the design to be have nods to historical meanings, but and not in a trashy way, like it just scares me a little bit. But I think he was very sensitive to the needs of
I
the
appreciate that, thank you. The thoughts? I am a little bit nervous about having a structure that is on the registry, being taken off the registry. I think though, when I vote here, I think I'm going to allow the landmarks commission to worry about the historical aspects of it and just try, I think when I vote, I think I'm gonna not focus on that part. Yeah, please.
Can I ask him one more question? Is there any architectural detail that you can save for the new part? Is there anything that can be saved, to give it that character? Anything?
As far as use in the new property
Right.
is difficult, but I'd be happy to let anybody come and pick out things like windows that they want to save or something. Some people are pretty creative and they could do something with that.
You have
So I'd
some-
be happy to let you pick that out.
With loads of art, but yeah.
Take some asbestos too when you.
Reuse, right?
You're on risk.
Okay, so how I'm gonna try this is, we're gonna go there's gonna be 4 options. One, that you're just enthusiastic, no concerns, all for it. Second is, you're supportive of it, though there may be some concerns. The next one will be, there's just too many concerns for you to really support it, but there's some potential there. And then the last one is just, no way, no how, I'm going to put it against it, okay? So, we will vote in that order as well. So raise your hand if you are enthusiastic and fully supportive of this project. And only vote if you live, your primary residence is in District 5. Thank you. Okay, we're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
If you don't live in any.
Okay, so right, we'll mark that down. Okay, raise your hand if you're generally supportive of this, but have some concerns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. Raise your hand if you could support it, but then if right now, the way it's presented, there's just too many concerns for you to support. 1, 2, 3. And then raise your hand if this is just your debt setting, it's kind of, and it's 0. All right, excellent. We will now invite David Peterson to come up, discuss. There's technically 3 aspects to this: the concept plan approval, the zone map amendment, and an ordinance execution. And we've got 10 minutes for the time.
Okay.
My name is David Peterson. I'm just here representing an applicant. I'm gonna come over the architect. He knows a lot more about building. And I can kind of go through the slide presentation and I can answer any engineering questions. So, Brett Harris.
I'm Brett Harris. I'm with Harris Architecture and I'm working with the developer, ACB to redevelop piece of ground on 156 West, 500 South. It's what we're calling right now is Provo Commons, 129 unit apartment complex. It has an underground parking structure with level 1 having parking and amenities for part of the project. Level 2 is all parking, and then level 3 is residential with more amenities, common space, and 4, 5, 6, and 7 are also residential. And some of those spaces also have common space as well for the amenities for the tenants that will be living there. It's utilizing most of the site, so the building taking up most of the ground surface, so all the amenities will be held within the building. And up on the level 7 in that corner, you can kind of see where you're talking. If we go to the next slide, we can kind of see the location of this. It's 156 West, 500 South. It's next to the 400 Element. There's also another project that has been approved, called Fairbanks Apartments, that is right next door to this, to the north. Next slide. This is the parcel. You can kind of see here the boundary and the building footprint here. You can kind of see it follows the property line, has 10 feet, of clearance from, property line to the building line. Next slide, just, that talks about the couple of parcels that we need to, rezone into the ITOP zone from the DT1 zone. So that's what we're trying to do. Part of this meeting is to make that conform to the ITOP zone, those two parcels. Next slide. That's a rendering of what the building would look like. Like I said, I kind of mentioned 7 stories, one below ground, and then 7 above, and then 4 feet to the top of the parapet. The roof would be about 80 feet. And then it just kind of breaks down the levels of what they are, parking and amenities and also number of units. We have are required to have 151 stalls based on the parking requirement in code. We do have 160 stalls provided at the current time for this project. And the next slide is just kind of run through what the back of the building looks like. Obviously there's the buildings around us, so a lot of that you won't see when the new building goes up and buildings are already there. Just wanted to show you that. Go to the next. That's the lower level parking underground. You can see it's all parking. And then the following slide shows level 1. You have the exercise, bike storage, the management of the property, and some breakout type space for whatever the developer decides to use in that space for amenities for the tenants. Go to level 2. That's all parking. Level 3, you can see that's when we get into the residential side of things, and then the whole centerpiece is all amenities, clubhouse, covered, kind of a semi-covered courtyard. We'll have some covered space in it, and also a space that will be open all the way up to the roof. And then that will be filled with different activities and things for the tenants. Level 4, go there. Next slide is all residential. And you kind of see, part of this space here. All this space is kind of open for 2 stories above level 3. But these 2 spaces are all open up all the way up to the very top. Go to level 5. You can see we do have some common safe space in the center that's covered. It's open outside. It doesn't have glass or windows in it. It's open to the outside. And then you have the open below space or open above space in the center. These are all, we have studio units, we have 1-bedroom units, and we have 2-bedroom units in this project. Level 6 will be the same, and level 7 is similar, besides the fact that we've added, an enclosed rooftop amenity space with an open, 2 above, kind of side terrace on that corner overlooking the train tracks, I guess, that direction. So, the next slide would be the unit plans. So you can kind of see the 1-bedrooms, the studios, and go one more slide and get the 2-bedrooms. And there are a couple of different corners and we're taking advantage of putting 2 bedrooms in. Next slide is the roof plan, and you kind of see those open below levels areas. The rest will be at the top. Next time I'll just show the renderings and we're looking at utilizing brick, wood veneer product, and then party board with a little bit of stucco and a metal panel, PCM panels on the front elevation. So that we go to one more slide. We put both of them. You might have missed the front elevation, but we will. This is just showing the materials of the building and utilizing, making sure we're meeting the code requirements for the materials that are being used on this project. So, any questions?
How many people would you say that will be living in that area?
This had 129 units, so, yeah, I'm trying to remember the exact number of studios, one bedrooms and two bedrooms, but I'll get that information for you. But
It looks like it's mostly one bedroom.
most of it is one bedroom, yes.
2-bedroom max then,
Two bedroom max,
and
yes.
what are the prices that you're looking at for renting?
That's a good question. We don't have those. We're just trying to get it rezoned for this meeting. When we come to, present it for project plan approval, I think that information will be developed and provided.
Any low income or senior housing or?
There's talk, the developers are talking a little bit about that, trying to find ways to incorporate some of that into this project. They're just, it's all, that becomes on price point. This isn't the least expensive type of building to build for the parking structure itself. We still have enough ground to put on grade. So, and the land is very expensive, but they have, in the discussions that I've had with the developer, there have been some talk there, but it hasn't been determined whether that will happen or not.
Any other green space besides the center court?
Can you go back to the pictures?
The renderings?
The outside, yeah, the product, the outside.
Yeah, so we're going to look at it.
There are a couple of them.
Couple of trees?
Well, a couple of pictures.
Yeah, there's the space around the building that will be landscape and, this doesn't really accurately show the fence right here. These put trees in the drawing with
So like, how wide is that strip? How wide is that strip?
between the fence here, it goes back, it's 10 feet, and then up front, we're right up against the site, the property line, and you've got the sidewalk and the plant.
The landscape there will be about 5.
Bro, if
A
we
lot of
want
these, we'll now.
We have the side
trees now is 5. It's 10 feet.
On that one particular side, you can see here, we need a sidewalk to get back to a second entrance. So it'll have about a 4-foot sidewalk, but then around the rest of the building, we'll have about 10 feet of landscaping. So.
Why do they have to be so tall? You're trying to cram in as much as.
because the zone allows for that density.
How tall is the element across the street? Just for.
That's a 4-story building, is probably in the 50-foot range. We designed that one, so it's probably right around 50 feet.
And this one, how tall?
This is 2 stories, or 3 stories taller. It's about 84 to the very top, highest point of that elevation.
Why not go tall?
Parking requirements. When we design these buildings, we try to maximize as much parking on the side as possible, and then, put the unit count into that, and then it came out to be 7 stories. If we go even above if we go above 7 stories, then we have to go into a different type of construction, which would be all non-combustible materials, so it gets a lot more,
Stick built versus steel.
yes, or concrete, even doing concrete. So the first 2 levels would be concrete, and then above that would be wood frame.
I was just curious if it was a zone that was capping it at that.
I think the zone allows for 100 feet.
So where's the in and out of there? Does that spill on to what, second west?
It's 5th south.
No, fifth south and what west?
156.
West.
Yeah, 156, we're on 156 west.
So that's not a very wide street, is it?
It's really wide.
It's really wide?
Yeah, it's pretty much.
Is that a collective? No.
No, it's just wide.
What?
There's diagonal parking like across the street. And they did.
Oh, that's right, there it is. Okay.
Well, there's apartments to the west, there's gonna be the new, this lot will stay vacant. There's a doctor or dentist that owns this little parcel on the corner. And then just north of this parcel is, what they're calling Fairbanks Apartments. And that's another, that's another 4-story building apartment.
What did the parking ratio end up being? I'm just curious.
We're required to have 151 stalls. We have 160 already programmed into the building, so it's over the required.
So what don't you make, what standards don't you make that what are you asking for?
We're just asking for a zone change to get those two little parcels from DT one into ITOD. And then we have a text amendment that allows us, you know, the ITOD zone says when you get to the fifth level, that you gotta, on this main street, you gotta push the building 15 feet back. And we're asking to go back to kind of what the DT one zone said and just allow that building to go up. There's really no use of that space up there for that job in the building. And it makes the construction a lot more difficult to build. Well,
Sorry, one question. You said the space on the right is remaining vacant. Does that just mean
the owner is home.
later, or he has some?
I don't know what type of plans he has, he just has no plans to sell it. There's been the Fairbanks project had requested him to sell, and I think ACB also tried to get contact him to sell that.
It's just that parking lot's paved lot,
Yeah.
it's like a quarter acre right there.
Yeah, it's just a really tiny lot, and I don't know what to do with it after these two big buildings get built.
Yeah, so turn it into a little park, that would be cool.
Yeah. We want green space there, so anything with that.
Pocket park.
Any other questions? Thank you. So there are the three aspects to this, kind of the rough concept plan, as well as the rezone. And then there is the request to, now this is a text amendment, so meaning going forward, that requirement would no longer be a requirement for any property that's developed in the ITOD zone. Yep. Okay, so we do need to understand that if this were to be approved, then that requirement is no longer in the ITOD zone, so it will affect more than just this property. All right, quickly, thoughts?
Can you explain that to me, please?
Oh, this step back.
So going forward,
Okay, so currently the ITOD zone, anything that's built in it has to have a step back. So you go up the 5 floors and then it needs to come back another 15 feet. And the reason for that, the architectural reason for that is that when you're in cities, you know, if you're in New York is an extreme example, that some of these buildings just go up and up and up, and there's a feel to that. And it you know, sometimes they talk about, you know, these steel and glass canyons, which, you know, that is the feel for certain places, and then that's probably the feel that they want. There's other places where they just try not to have that canyon feel, and so person on the street, or you know, on this side, if you step it back after the 5 stories, then it gives the feel that it's only 5 stories tall, and so you don't get that feeling of it being quite on top of you. So that's the theory behind it. That's the reason why it was put in the ITOD zone initially. And so now the request is to remove that, which would allow this to be built, but would allow anything that, you know, anything going forward being built in the ITOD would no longer be required to have that setback after 5 stories.
what is the acronym?
ITOD, sorry, that's the interim, it's been interim for what, 20 years now, but an interim transportation oriented development. So because the Roadrunner station is nearby, everything around it is allowed to be built quite dense, and that is the vision for this area. The vision for this area is to have density placed here. This is where we decided it's appropriate.
So going forward, the ITAR zone no longer has that back.
Okay.
If we approve, if this is approved.
If that request is approved. Yeah.
Why that, or why can't it just be a variance to that? Like, that's, because I all of a sudden feel very uncomfortable making a change for all possible, everything for the future.
I can address that. So discussions with not only the applicant, but our application to the zone, we've actually suggested that text amendment. So as a planning staff, we support that. A setback on Center Street between 500 West, 200 East is very appropriate to maintain that historic fill up, the 3 stories. Down here where we expected over the years to develop as a urban or high dense area around the commuter station, we didn't see much sense in having it just a 15-foot setback.
But I like this picture. I get a little worried though when there's not room for literally any green except for 1 foot of grass. Or is that what we want, like hardcore metropolitan urban? I mean.
So the setback doesn't really affect that. The setback just pushes the 6 and 7 stories back 15 feet from the street.
Oh, it's just pushing the top story.
Yeah,
I'm
it's pretty bad.
so sorry. Okay, so this still has the setback to the flat.
Right, it's not that it's a yard setback.
Oh, I get it. I get it. Okay, setback and a step back. Okay, now I kept thinking, why did it be there? I thought it was setback. But okay, so now I get it. There's setback and that's not affected, but step back is affected. You got it. Okay. Yeah, I'm right.
Yeah, I fully support getting rid of the step back, because as I see it, if you force the step back on them, that's going to be fewer units, and the units are gonna cost more. Right, and so we're talking about a dense area, a step back for a 501, I think it's the right call. Yeah, other thoughts?
Don't step back from any kind of building.
Correct, I think
Is there like a maximum?
100 feet in some.
so. That's roughly 8 stories above ground.
Yeah, with our first story height requirements, probably 8.
The setback is only after the 5th story already, so.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Again, the point is to make it feel, or for pedestrians, to make it feel like a 5-story building and not an 8-story building. That's the purpose of it. I'm not defending it or whatever. I'm just so people understand what the logic behind that requirement was. Okay. And since it's just thoughts, my thought on this is in this type of area, it makes sense to pool green space. Now we should be thoughtful about making sure that there are some urban spots, but I personally don't think that every development needs to have its own green space. That having these pool green spaces is much more functional and it makes it. So that's my understanding on that. Any other thoughts? Yes.
So, what are the plans for having pool green space? Like, I don't know if any parks over there or anything. All right. I mean, I love the idea of that, but just realistically, that can happen, or that's gonna be, 700 apartment units, no grass, and then dog food everywhere, and then 2 feet of grass. I'm in Chicago.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Is the Mazer Park is a ways away, the Pioneer Park? Is there anything else? So we do have some councils, a couple council members here, maybe. I think you can kind of feel there's some general support for these higher density projects, which might be unusual for other places in the city, but there's some general support for this. But we definitely want to make sure that we're not under investing in the parks and things like that. So we should be looking for opportunities there if we're going to continue to develop like this and still want our core to be livable. All right, so let's just roll this all together. So, or would you prefer to vote, express your opinions separately on the step back question versus the general concept plan here and rezone? Let's do it all together. All right, so if you are fully supportive of this, enthusiastic about it, go ahead and raise your hand now. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, if you're generally supportive but you have some concerns you'd like to address, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If you're supportive but you just have too many concerns right now, raise your hand. 0, and if you're just dead set against this development proposal, and all right. Thank you.
I was wondering, is there something already there, or is it complete?
There is something there,
There's a coffee shop,
small coffee shop.
1 story.
Yeah, and then auto garage, basically it's that big auto garage that wrapped around. So we would be taking those down and then replacing it with it.
Good. And we are a little behind, so we're gonna try to catch up, but now we are going to invite Trina Beckstrom, who will be joining us via Zoom to present on a request for a zone map amendment. This would move lot from single family R16. Sometime maybe we can chat a Trina on what our zone code means. But basically single family zone to low density residential to create a duplex. So Trina, take it away.
Thank you. So as it says, right now it's a single family home and we want to change the zoning to low density residential. Rachel, do you want to do the next slide? Thank you. Reasons for the amendment is not enough affordable, nice housing close to BYU campuses. I'm sure you've talked about many times. And then there's even less housing available for more than 4 roommates. My son is, there's 6 roommates that wanted to live together, and we had a very hard time finding any housing that would accommodate them. And so we decided to purchase this home. Options to rent when our sons aren't living there. That would provide options to have 6 roommates, separate roommates, a single family, 2 families, or couples. And this home was built as a triplex. It was never zoned as a triplex for some reason, but it was built as a triplex. And looking at the general plan, we found that what we're asking is consistent with the plan, as quality of life that residents said they were looking for was to provide and maintain a mix of housing types of various price points, having a place for their children and family to live in the community, 30% of the population being students, 41% of this district, 29% strongly disagreeing that there's just not enough housing to accommodate current and future residents. There's a 6.5 vacancy rate in Provo and only 2.5 in this area, leaving few housing available for students. And only 12.9 of the homes have 5 or more bedrooms, which is what we were looking for. So the home is in that black square, right in the upper right corner, the yellow one. And as you see, there's duplexes surrounding us on both sides that are already zoned for duplexes. So we would just kind of be closing that corner and joining the neighbors who are already zoned for duplexes. So this is the front of the home. It was built with 3 separate entrances, 3 separate kitchens. The Twitchells who lived there before changed it to be 2 kitchens and a duplex. So that's why we're doing a duplex rather than a triplex. But you can see there's an entrance on the left that goes upstairs, and there's an entrance on the right there that goes downstairs. And then in the back of the home was the 3rd entrance, which also leads to the bottom basement of the duplex. So basically we have this home that's already a duplex that we just want to be able to call it what it is and rent it and use it as such. One of the concerns we know is always parking. And so here's the parking per unit. And if you look in that same square where our place is located, the ones that have duplexes already only have 0.51 to 1 spots and 2 to 3, where our place has 4 parking spots in the home, not to mention the street parking. So that shouldn't be a problem at all to have a duplex there. Here's a picture of the 4 parking spots. 3 are covered and 1 to the left of the cars there. And then as you can see, being a corner lot, there's plenty of street parking in those very wonderful wide streets there. And that's just what we want, is to be a contributing part of the community and have places for people to stay. Any questions?
Yeah. What question was the address?
The microphones are a little hard to hear, so if maybe we can state any questions, maybe Rachel, you can repeat them.
Questions for the applicant? So, Rachel, if you'll transfer this, but, so is the plan to tear down the current building and put in a duplex or just a rezone to?
Yeah, so are you tearing down and replacing or just changing the zone?
No, we're just making the house zoned correctly for what the house is built for. We're not changing, I mean, we're updating cabinets and carpet, but we're not changing anything to the structure of the house. It's already built as a duplex, so we wouldn't need to do anything different.
But you bought it as a single family home.
Did you buy it as a single family home?
Yes.
Yes, it was zoned as a single family home. That's what's confusing, and we went through history and I talked to Jansen at the city to see, was it ever zoned for a triplex? Why was it built for a triplex and never zoned? I think it was used that way and not correctly zoned, or we were perplexed by that. But it was zoned, is currently zoned as single family.
How long have you owned the home?
How long have you owned the home?
We've owned it for a couple months.
All right, I'm gonna speed this along. So general thoughts?
So this one means a lot to me because I was extremely close here. I moved with the children and it's actually for decades had owner occupants. So to rezone it, to permanently use it from the owner occupant market. That concerns me enormously. I think it's entirely in contradiction to the spirit of the neighborhood plan, which is to preserve owner occupancy, and in fact, to what degree possible increase it. So this is a very significant loss. And yes, it is built in a way that you can have a couple of people in there, but the fact of the matter is for decades, it's had owner occupants. So it is interesting to such persons. Also, you can use the other unit as an accessory dwelling if the owner lives in it, which is that's actually how it's functioning as a owner occupant home with an accessory dwelling. And my other concern is if you let this one be converted to a duplex, I literally do not see on what basis you could ever say no again to somebody else coming and saying, can my single family home be turned into a duplex? It just would be completely inconsistent. It wouldn't make sense. So big concern.
Can someone verify the current zoning? It's listed here as R16. Is this actually R16A or is it truly R16?
It's R16, the A and the S went away, when the new ADU code came in, so it does still allow accessory units with the owner occupancy.
Okay, that is what I want to know. Okay, so
Can I have one question? Square footage.
Sorry, could I interrupt for a moment? I didn't hear that last comment. Could someone clarify what was said, please?
I'm afraid that if I think at this point, just with the time, we're gonna have that conversation.
I did hear something about accessory dwelling unit, and I did want to address that part, which is it works fine for the current situation because my son is an owner and he'll be living there, and we could do the other part as the accessory dwelling unit. But in between, when my children would live there, we do need to rent it out with no owner there. So that wouldn't work for that part.
Not if the son has roommates, then you can't, because when it's accessory dwelling, it can only be a 50% plus owner who lives there, and you can't have any unrelated people. I read that code very recently, word for word.
All right, other thoughts?
Quick comment. I really hate to go against the wisdom of the residents of that section of Joaquin Neighborhood, who 40 years ago put a lot of work into getting it designated as R16 accessory. And I agree it should remain owner occupied with an accessory apartment if it's used to do it that way. It is You're right, it's contrary to the neighborhood plan for the South Joaquin area.
Okay, so R16 doesn't require that the owner live there, but the owner has to live there if they're going to use the accessory.
Yeah, and not owner and then some roommates, it's gotta be just owner.
Yeah,
That's what I heard.
I wish I could wrap my head around, I had tried for years and years and years, I understand exactly what's allowed and what's not allowed, and I kind of didn't like that. But that can be totally true.
Is it separate meter, gas and or electric, or is it all on one meter?
Rachel, can you ask that question?
Yeah, Trina, are there separate meters for the gas and electric right now?
No,
And there are some tolerance.
What is your name? Spencer, 100% agree with Tom Spencer. Buyer beware. It's south of the 500 north.
I'm just concerned about the precedent of saying, well, I made my house into a duplex, and I have to make it duplex, and I know. Find out.
And just so you know, on that same street, the same thing happening, that's happening right now, also happens when there's another person who bought a project just living and they're trying to but there's pressure to go in this direction. And if you make the wrong decision once, you have no basis to ever say no again. So I think it's very important.
And then the one other thing, like currently, and I know reason to doubt, but right now there's no plans to redevelop this, but if it is ever redeveloped in the future, it can develop whatever is legal for the LDR zone. So this does change what's available in the future without a reason. Okay. Obviously there's some strong feelings here, but I don't, we're gonna vote on this, okay? So again, the options are, I'll just name it as I ask for the votes, but if you are enthusiastic about this and have no concerns, want to support it, raise your hand. One vote.
Is he in the neighborhood?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So the second option, if you generally support this proposal that has some concerns, raise your hand. 2 votes. If you, what did I say? I said that. If you could support this, but you've been concerned right now to be able to support it, raise your hand. 0. And then if you're just dead set against this proposal, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Let me try that one more time. Repeat your hands. Raise it here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 for the option. Okay. Thank you. We are now 15 minutes behind. So Chris Wiltsey is here. He wants to present, I believe, some ideas about traffic calming measures that we might be interested in working in the city, seeing if we could do some things about that. So, Chris, you can keep it to 10 minutes. That would be appreciated.
Okay, I'm from Utah. I guess my position changed recently, but I'm a co-director now. But I used to run a program where I supported communities throughout the state in planning and finding funding for high comfort walking and biking infrastructure, high comfort, high safety. So traffic calming, what is it? Okay, so there are these folks, Ewing and Brown, they're kind of the experts. They wrote a book about traffic calming that's kind of like the Bible, so to speak, on this topic. And their definition is changes in street alignment, installation of barriers, and other physical measures to reduce traffic speeds and cut through volumes in the interest of street safety, livability, and other public purposes. So that's their definition. So keep that in mind. We'll talk a little bit about what it doesn't talk about, because I think that's important for what we often think of as traffic calming. Next slide. Okay, so when we are talking about traffic calming, we're generally talking about road designs that are self-enforcing. So if you think about, or kind of what I say jokingly is the more people are afraid of scratching their cars, the slower they're going to drive. So you can do that through a number of different ways. You can raise the road up, it's called vertical deflection, so that would be like a speed hump, speed table, there's other things. You can use horizontal deflection, which would be you're deflecting a car sideways and that forces it to slow down. So a roundabout would be an example of that. Or you could look at something like this, where it's called a chicane. So it's shifting them laterally. Or you can narrow up the street. So for example, I live on a street that was built in the 1920s, and it was built kind of like in that awkward pre-car post-wagon era. And the streets are like 23 feet wide, and so people drive really slow. I actually like played dodgeball down my street the other week. I live here in Provo, by the way. So those are kind of the basic ideas, right? You're like deflecting cars, you're making them slow down, you're making people pay attention more by adding some complexity to the roadway. So you may be thinking maybe we don't want to add complexity. The reason we do that on highways or take away complexity is because you're traveling at much higher speeds. And so what that tended to do back when they were creating these regulations for highways was a lot of people were getting into accidents. They have different policies around that, but that was basically the idea. But we don't hopefully live along a highway, right? We live in neighborhoods. And so the idea is different. We want to add a little bit of complexity to get people to slow down and pay attention to where they're driving. Next one. Okay, so this would be a kind of an example of what I'm talking about in the actual world. We have something in Joaquin, right? We have the neighborhood byway. That would be an example of traffic calming. As a student, I actually worked on that project. That was one of the good projects I helped with when I lived in Joaquin. That was amazing. So you can see here, this is narrowing up the roadway. So the car has to come in here, so it creates this kind of choke point. And it also deflects them slightly, as that curvature, and then they have to go through the roundabout, which again, that's deflecting them, making them slow down.
You don't actually have that one anymore.
Yeah, you don't have this, you just have the roundabout.
The mini
Yeah, the
roundabout.
mini roundabout. So that would be a mini roundabout as well. Okay, next slide. Okay, what is it not? If we think back to that definition, they didn't talk about signage. It's not signage. They didn't talk about crosswalks. Crosswalks are, there may be some debate, but according to the people who are writing books on this, they wouldn't consider something like signage or a crosswalk as traffic calming. Crosswalk is just sort of delineating a space for you to cross, but it isn't, again, self-enforcing, right? You can drive through that, you can squash people if you want. There's nothing to stop you, right? But if you think about these other treatments, they're self-enforcing. So just putting up a sign doesn't have the same impact. It might have a small impact, but it doesn't have the same significant impact that some of these design treatments do. Next slide. So, at the end of the day, all policy should be a synthesis of the values of our neighborhoods and our communities, right? Next slide. So, this is a word cloud of from a workshop that I ran in another community. And these were some of the values that they came up with that they wanted to emphasize in their transportation plan. So as part of my work, I will do active transportation plans for communities. And so we were doing this workshop. So sometimes what happens is you will have the technical experts dictating your values. So an example, I used to work in public works. Major consideration in public works is ease of maintenance, so that would be a value. But most of us are not thinking, I sure hope my road is easy to maintain, right? So, and that's not to say we disregard that value, but it needs to exist within the household of values that we have dictated. So, for example, some of the things, the main thing that was very obvious was safety. That's what they wanted. And so our roadway should reflect our values. Our values should be manifest in the built environment, so to speak. Some other stuff that came out was like walking, community, connected. They wanted it to be a space where they could get together and enjoy each other's presence. For example, I talked about I played kickball literally on the street, right? So and I did that with friends and children. We had this like a community event, so to speak, sort of informal, wasn't fun. Next slide. But sometimes our values will be conflicted with one another, so you have to consider that. And I think that's why when we're engaging with the city, we need to be very clear about our values and reference those values constantly. Because if you don't reference them, it can become problematic. So for example, with that community that I did that workshop with, they constantly talk about safety, but then when we would talk about specifics, suddenly they didn't want safe streets. They wanted to be able to drive their cars very conveniently. But then if you talk about this, if you brought it back to those values, right, then it's like, okay, maybe we don't actually want to sacrifice everything for the cars to be efficient. So we have to sort of think about what do we want to prioritize in our system. And it's about context and priorities. And we should not, I think it's probably not advisable to always prioritize cars as the #1 value in every single situation. Perhaps there are situations where it's valuable, but traffic calming, we want to create communities and neighborhoods that are enjoyable to live in. We should consider other values. Next slide, questions.
Can I just tell you what we're doing in Joaquin with Vern Keeslar's help from engineering? We just applied for a Bloomberg Foundation Philanthropies Art Asphalt Project, where we would paint that mini roundabout, and Vern Keeslar is going to put a rubber edge around it to just extend it out a little bit. And then if we get approved, we'll find out in October or November. We'll have a little art contest, and Susan Kruger Barber did one sample to send with her application. But we'll paint the center roundabout, the crosswalks, and then maybe the bulb outs, and maybe a little bit into the street, just to make people aware of the bike path, the crosswalk, the center roundabout that has big rubber black stripes from cars trying to run over the mini roundabout. So we'll see if that helps.
Yeah,
To start.
I do a lot of that kind of stuff, like tactical urbanism and pop-up projects in my work. And so I have a lot of ideas about how to like maximize the event in terms of education and creating conversations.
We'll involve you with it.
Okay, yeah. Great. Any other questions? So I actually have, we received, just to wrap up, in 2020, we received a grant at Bike Utah. It's like $160,000 worth of data tools. And one of them was for a platform called Streetlight Data. And we were able to basically map out where in every single type of mode of transportation, so walking, biking, driving automobiles, even big trucks, we're able to map that all out for the whole city at a very like granular level. And so I would be happy to do some analyses for your neighborhoods or your district to kind of look at maybe where you have trouble areas or maybe where you should emphasize traffic calming.
I think we would welcome that. Right?
Yeah, fine as that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we can do that. Like not in like the next week, but I have a lot on my plate right now, but it's cool.
I think our next meeting is in 6 or 7 weeks, so. All right. Thank you, Chris. I'm gonna quickly call on Audible, just to announce, yeah, let's give them a round of applause. give an announcement, so Wednesday, June 28th, which is what, a week? 2 days from now, the police are holding a Broths of Cops event at Pioneer Park from noon to 1:30 in the afternoon, so be aware of that. And then we have a discussion that we scheduled that we wanted just to like discuss and get what people's thoughts are on matching grant opportunities, service projects. But just to give that the time, let me just ask, is anyone planning to make public comments? Okay, if not, we will then just use all the time until 8 o'clock, but we will wrap up at 8. So we have 18 minutes to discuss matching grants / service projects. Laura, did you? I should have looked at this. I don't remember exactly what we wanted to talk about.
So you said there's a matching grant, I believe it's due June 28th. Is that true?
So the matching grants are, yeah, pretty much the end of June.
Yeah.
For this fiscal year, and then July 1st is when the next fiscal year starts.
Okay. So there's a question of how to use the money for this fiscal year, if we can use it, if there's something to apply matching grant for. Something I heard that.
Yeah, Nathan Neighborhood has a party that we do every year for the 4th of July, that has just been neighbors all volunteering, and we had suggested that maybe we could reimburse the insurance and permit fees that have been just donated by people in the neighborhood. And I think it's a few $100s kind of level. And
Right.
that permit has already been given and been paid for. I could try to get the receipt and turn it in.
Yeah, if you have the receipt, then that can come out of your $1,000 budget for social events and meetings. That can come out of that. So if I can get that receipt by the 28th, then we can certainly reimburse whoever it was that paid
So
for.
you need to go through the full matching grant.
That's not a matching grant. That's a separate fund that each
Okay.
district has, that $1,000.
Okay, there was also some interest, and I don't know if this would apply at all, in applying the grant money toward, the tree planting project that you also just posted about, right?
Right, the 1,000 Trees
Yeah,
project.
yeah.
Yeah, so that could go towards that if you want to have part of the next fiscal year starting July 1st. We can have that, and we can have the arborist come, and also our sustainability coordinator talk to us about the 1,000 Tree project, where you can combine doing your service hours, planting trees, and then that can help pay for trees, not just in your area, but throughout Provo.
Okay, but in terms of like using any of that money for this fiscal year, it's just.
It's the matching grant process is kind of a slog.
Okay,
And so it's kind of hard. We have had a few people kind of slide some in under the wire, but it's projects where they've already been working with Public Works, they've already been working with Parks in order to get these in. So if you have an in with Public Works or Parks, something maybe that they're already planning to do in your neighborhood where you can have that go, then we can do that. But it is a lot to put the application together, and then it has to be okayed, and then you have to get an agreement signed and.
So at this
Yeah.
point, you would suggest that we're too late to use the matching grant for the current year.
I would say so, unless you have something where you've already been talking to city officials about. Of course, you can also do it privately. You don't have to do a public area. You can do a private area, but it would have to be really fast. Like if say you're painting a bunch of houses or maybe doing a bunch of landscaping in a neighborhood, you would have to get the okay by the property owners, have the supplies bought, have your group together to do the project, to have it done by June 30th.
Project has to be done by June 30th then.
That's what we would prefer to have it done. We do have one in the works That's gonna be a little bit later, that they had gotten special permission to go into July to do it. But most of them have to be, we want everything done within the fiscal year, which is July 1st to June 30th.
And I think some of the other discussion that we had is, generally every year, the district, all six neighborhoods, are budgeted $5,000 for this matching grant, has to be matched by our either donations or volunteer work. And as well as there's a $1,000 budget just for other expenses that we want to use as the district. We didn't use really, I mean, other than this proposal, which sounds like a couple $1,000, $100, a few $100. We didn't use it this first year, but we were just getting up and going. But you know, $5,000 across 6 neighborhoods, not necessarily a lot in each year or for a project. And since I've got 2 council members here, I just wanted to point out, I think when we did like the population counts, we have like twice as many residents as some other districts. And so if you look at $1 per resident, you know, we're getting half the money that other parts of the neighborhood or the city are. So we might want to take a look at that as you're looking to refine this the program. But we've got this $5,000. Do we want to try to take $5,000, split it up 6 ways and use them in every neighborhood each year? Do we want to, is it better to do larger projects and try to rotate them throughout the district into the different neighborhoods? And so you might, each neighborhood can get this project every 6 years. Do we want to just try to do projects that benefit the entire district all together? Do we want to just let neighborhoods kind of come up with ideas, and whichever is the best idea? I mean, so anyway, that's one of the ideas, or one of the thoughts that we should have, one of the discussions that we should have. So as we go into the next fiscal year and have, our antenna up on what kind of projects we want to go for with the matching grant.
Yeah, I'd love to bring farm service project. I think we should dedicate some portion of the meeting to just that.
Okay, awesome. We could start that now, or we can just kind of take it as a assignment to everyone that next meeting we're gonna have some time just to brainstorm service project ideas.
Next meeting, brainstorming.
Okay. Yes.
Just here, your question about, do we rotate the money or it's pretty, I don't know the answer to that, but because different neighborhoods, some might have where I do them often. Maybe if there is a rotation, right of first refusal structure might make more sense. Like you passed before, so anytime you decide you have it, you get first dibs, but otherwise you follow it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, I hope that next year we're not sitting here on the last meeting of the fiscal year saying, well, we didn't use it again this year, but we're for sure gonna use it next year. Yes.
We do have 8 neighborhoods in District 5. This is down Franklin, South, downtown Milwaukee, Mesa, and East Bay. That's something else for the city council to think about and make the budget allocations.
Yeah, well, I mean, my personal opinion is I would hate to lose any of those neighborhoods. East Bay. I say that because I don't think anyone decides that.
I think we have 4 people when we did the
Okay.
count.
So I will, if any of those 4 want to contact me, I will personally apologize.
Underneath the.
But generally, but I mean, seriously, I mean, each thing needs to be part of someone, might as well be a part of us, and I feel like, losing a child if we separated any of those neighborhoods from.
But I'm thinking budget allocation.
Yes.
Maybe the districts with more neighborhoods have access to a little bit more money.
Yeah, or at the very least, more residents.
Yeah, more residents.
Yeah. I agree.
Well, it'll be everybody. It's true.
Okay, but yeah, what are your thoughts on, should we focus more on projects that benefit the whole district, or is that just unreasonable that if we're doing something any one place in the neighborhood or in the district, it's not gonna benefit the whole district?
I think going a little slower but doing more meaningful projects is probably the way to go. You know, that would be mine. But the problem is I personally don't know what a lot of their ideas are. So that's why it's hard to do.
I think a brainstorming session, which definitely should include service projects as well as others, I think would be helpful to get our kind of those juices flowing on what can we do. That's Rachel.
So in the past, we had done, like big service projects, right? Where we were painting like 3 houses in a row with the help of a couple of stakes, like everybody getting together. I think we did that in conjunction with Paint Your Heart Out and with the LDS Church. We've done Plant Your Heart Out activities where we do landscaping, tree planting and park strips and everything. And so I think it would be great if in the different neighborhoods, they identify areas where we can go ahead and do this and maybe just do 2 of these a year, right? But those big impact things really pull the community together.
Yeah.
And so for the next brainstorming, maybe if you know particular properties or areas where that would be good, you could bring that to the table for the discussion.
Thank you. I thought on that, kind of piggybacking on that, if we did something like a tree planting project, we could ask each neighborhood to come up with 4 places where whatever size that we were trying to bite off, and then each neighborhood could get together and plant the trees that are in their neighborhood. We could have one project that would actually be spread across the district.
Real quick, the only thing about the tree planting though is, because I personally organized planting 7 trees in my neighborhood this spring, just on my own with the sustainability thing. And it costs because they just did the trees, I just had to put it later. So in terms of using the matching grants, I'm not sure there's no other need for grants for the trees. Unless it's for donuts, which is right.
And that's been my experience with the old regular neighborhood program, that the city departments were thrilled to work with residents, and they were very generous with the help that they would give. But having that matching grant would, I mean, it's one thing to do it, for 7 or whatever, but that probably came out of their budget. But if we can bring some budget to the table, then maybe we can do it bigger, and they can still help that one person who wants to get 7 trees planted. But we're doing, I think Dixon, we've done 20 trees in a activity, and so like if every one of those are doing 20, that might more into their budget.
The budget, you like specifically about the 1,000 trees, budget, the sustainability, the 1,000 trees.
I'm gonna have to read up on this 1,000 trees.
It's not the impression, I think, I got the impression, they're like, we got lots of something.
Okay, cool.
That's the impression.
Yeah, and wonderful. And that's the other thing is like with service projects, there's some big ones that we may not be able to do without getting matching grant funds. So there's actually a ton of stuff that we can do for low cost or no cost. Home Depot is actually really good at supporting community projects. I mean, there's a lot that we can do that don't have a price tag or a small price tag, and so we can really leverage a lot of stuff. We can, beyond the matching grant stuff, there's a lot that can be done. Yeah, I agree. Okay.
Is it possible, for instance, we had Chris here, is it possible for, does he maybe bring someone contact him about some ideas, or are there any service ideas that could go along with the?
That's one of the things that I was thinking of. Doing road calming or whatever you call it. Traffic calming. And I was gonna contact Chris, but that's a perfect one.
Yeah, I know some of those projects are like $100,000.
Any ideas? But I know they do like paint the street and the intersection thing.
They could just paint alone.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if he has it.
And again, like I said, my experience, I'm not I'm not, committing them to it, but my experience is that the city departments have been, very accommodating, very helpful in, these kind of projects, and so, sometimes, you know, the project is number 12 on the list, and it's gonna take 4 years to get to, but if we're willing to do the volunteer work also, then it takes it up to number 2 when we get it scheduled and we get it done, so. And from talking with them, it's always, that's been a win-win situation, obviously, you know, they have to agree to it or whatever, but I've seen them willing to, if the community is willing to roll up our sleeves and do some of the work, then they've been very accommodating for that. Okay. So. Any last thoughts? Okay, go home, talk to your neighbors, come back with some service project ideas and or matching grant project ideas for next meeting. And unless there's an objection, we will adjourn this meeting.
Okay, thank you.